Scary Stories, Episode 1. There once was a girl and her father, and they were going out to the wood because their mother had died, and they were trying to make a coffin for her by cutting down trees. And they found a circle of trees in the middle of the woods. So they started to chop down the circle. And they had cut down 3 trees by then, and they heard laughter. It heard like little kids, but they weren't sure. So they moved on and walked for at least 2 miles to 3 miles, and they found another circle of trees. So they started to chop down the trees again. Then they heard laughter, little kids, but it was a little bit closer. They thought it was a coincidence, so they walked on a little bit further, and they found the 3rd circle, but it was a little bit bigger, and it had a little more thicker trees. So they started chopping down the first tree, and once they did, they had enough wood for the coffin. And then they said, oh, what the heck, we might as well build a cross. So they keep walking, and they find a circle with a big wooden house made out of tree. And they decided to go inside the house. It was a little bit scary at first because the little girl had never been in the woods before, and this was her first time ever seeing a tree. A big wooden house. And you don't normally see a big wooden house in the woods. So after they go into the house, the dad says for her to go out because he had seen something that looked familiar. So the dad went into the other room and he saw a bed. It looked kind of watery because the roof was broken at like a little point. So whenever it rained, it got a little bit wet. And then he looked to his right and he saw a mirror. And the mirror was all dirty and dusty. And he decided to clean the side of the mirror. And in the mirror, he saw his dead wife looking back at him saying, "You did this to me." And he screamed. And the little girl ran into the house and looked everywhere for her father, but she couldn't find him. And then she goes into the room where her dad had been, and she looked at the mirror, and it was broken. And then she was crying, and she felt somebody approach her, and she looked back, and it was her mother. And her mother told her, "I was never dead. What your father did to me was horrible, and I cannot tell you." And she started to cry and hug her mother, not asking any questions. And she looked at the mirror once more, and she saw her father in it, banging on the glass, trying to get free. And he pointed at his wife, and he said, "Run." So she ran, and her mother screamed for her, but she never looked back. And from then on, she was sent to an insane asylum, and all she could ever do was cry. The end.
Really scary.
That was not very scary, but the next episode will be. Subscribe.